Girls, we will take now the vocabulary, Unit 7, the passage. Please, girls, open your book, page 100, and please focus with me, okay? Because when we analyze the passage word by word, it makes it easier for you to study it, girls. Okay? I'll share for you. Here. Do you see it, girls? Do you see the PowerPoint? Not PowerPoint, the site?
Yes, teacher.
Oh, okay. An overlooked exploration.
An overlooked exploration. Informational essay. On May 18, 1836, the U.S. Congress authorized an expedition to explore the Pacific Ocean and the South Seas. Its aim was to extend the bounds of science and to promote knowledge. The 4-year voyage achieved both goals, covering 87,000 miles between 1838 and 1842. However, this important journey remains relatively unknown today, compared with Lewis and Clark's comparatively modest 2-year, 8,000-mile expedition to the Pacific coast.
So, it was a trip to explore the world, to know what happens around them, because they didn't have Google there. So whenever you want to know anything, you have to travel. So it was a 4-year voyage, okay, 4-year voyage, but it didn't take that much success as Lewis and Clark's 8,000 miles voyage, okay?
Congress did not need to concoct a grandiose
Again, listen.
1942. However, this important journey remains relatively unknown today, compared with Lewis and Clark's comparatively modest 2-year, 8,000-mile expedition to the Pacific coast. Congress did not need to concoct a grandiose justification.
Congress did not need to concoct. Did not need to concoct. So the part of speech of this word is what? Concoct. It's a verb or an adjective. Sarah, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Serene? Sarah, I called you previous period, yes, Sarah.
Yeah, Miss, I know. I was the last minutes of the period. I was in the bathroom because I see that we will finish, so I went.
So the part of speech is what, yes, Sarah, here?
No, I don't know.
Concoct. To concoct. Need to concoct. A verb, adjective.
Miss, can you repeat?
Hmm?
Miss, can you repeat?
Is it a verb or an adjective? Do you have your book?
Yeah,
Is it open?
A verb. Yeah,
A verb.
it's open, a verb.
Or verb. Did not you
Nada?
need to Yes, dear.
Teacher, can you let Maya in?
After I go to the I joined the class. I cancel that. I accept. I cancel it. Girls, is Wad here?
Hello, Miss Nada, can you hear me?
Yes, Maya. Wad is not here.
Yes.
Thea?
Miss, which page?
Thea is not here. No, Thea is here. Okay, so quickly, girls. Ahad. Ahad? Arwa? I'm calling now. Ahad? Arwa? آية بنجك؟ بتول؟ بتول؟ ديما؟
Yes, I'm here.
غلا؟ حرير؟ هدى؟ جودي؟
Yes.
حرير
Yes.
هدى جودي.
Yes.
Layal?
Miss, he called me.
Who?
أو أروى.
Yes, Arwa, yes, dear. Leah?
Yes, miss.
Lean?
Yes, teacher. I'm here.
Linda, yes.
Yes.
Lujine? Malak Al-Haj?
Yes, miss.
Malika? Mariam?
Yes,
Maya?
miss.
Nancy?
Yes, miss.
Nirvana?
Here.
Noor?
Yes.
Sarah? Serena?
Yes, teacher.
Yes,
Ah,
miss.
both Shams are not here. Mariam Shaghdali?
Yes, miss.
Yes, so okay. So we go back to our we were reading, yes, did not need to concoct. To concoct a grandiose. What is grandiose? Grandiose. To concoct, يعني I'm now in an exam and I find a passage, I don't know the meaning of the words. So let's divide it. Did not need to concoct, I don't know, concoct. To concoct a grandiose. If I divide it, it will be what? Grandiose. If I divide it, it will be two.
Grand and
Grand and the rest. So what grand means?
large.
Large, massive, big, important. So grandiose means big and grand. Okay, so he did not need to concoct a grandiose. He did not need to concoct a grand justification for authorizing 300,000. So what is to concoct? What concoct means?
Concoct.
To prepare by.
Concoct. Concoct is a verb that means to prepare by combining ingredients or to devise, invent, or fabricate. Health food companies have been able to concoct tasty meatless substitutes for hamburger.
So it means what? Combine.
1,000 miles to explore the
Okay, concoct
Congress
is to combine. Again, here,
did not need to concoct a grandiose justification for
Congress did not need to concoct, did not need to concoct. A grandiose. Grandiose means grand, massive. Concoct is to combine.
authorizing $300,000 for the XX, as the U.S. South Seas Exploring Expedition was called. The promise of information about newly discovered lands and unfamiliar peoples captivated curious readers across the nation. To military leaders, such information would be both useful and strategic. A third and not inconsequential factor was
A third and not, يا أروى, not inconsequential factor. A third and not inconsequential factor, inconsequential. So let's divide it to know the part of speech. The part of speech is what? It is before a noun, before factor. Adjective or adverb or noun? Adjective.
Adjective.
If I divide it, it will be and con and sequential. Inconsequential factor was economic. It was not inconsequential. It is not before factor, girls. I'm sorry. It is after the because here it's an adjective, but not to factor. A third and not inconsequential factor was economic. It's an adjective for factor, yes. How can I modify it? Inconsequential will mean what? Inconsequential. Consequent.
It means it's not important.
Excellent. It's not important. Inconsequential means it's not important.
economic. New lands meant new opportunities for American businesses. Notable support came from New England's wealthy whalers, whose industry, one of the most important and powerful at that time, faced growing demand for whale products and now sought new hunting territory. To mitigate the decline of their quarry,
To mitigate the decline of their quarry. Okay, to mitigate the decline of their quarry. Noor didn't sign in, right? Marim Shagdali? The part of speech is what, yeah, Marim? To mitigate the decline of their quarry. The part of speech, is it a noun or a verb or adjective? To mitigate.
No.
After to do, so it's a verb. Mitigate here today is a verb. To mitigate the decline of their quarry. So they do something to the decline of their quarry. So there is a decline happening. You would like to do what to this decline? If there is a decline in your marks, you'd like to do what?
Raise.
Stop it or lessen. To mitigate the decline is to lessen, enforce, to lessen, make it less. So I kind of stop the decline by forcing it to stop or lessening it.
whalers had begun sending ships into the unfamiliar Antarctic waters. These vulnerable vessels often foundered on unknown hazards, causing
These vulnerable vessels is ships. Vulnerable vessels. Okay, Lujain? Vessel is this great ship here, like here, vessel. Vulnerable means what? The part of speech of vulnerable is what, ya Lujain?
Vulnerable is an adjective.
An adjective. Two vessels. So I modify vessel. Vulnerable vessel. They are founded on unknown hazards causing shipwrecks. So vulnerable is an adjective which is founded on unknown hazards causing shipwrecks. Vulnerable is what? Vessels. Yani they found them shipwrecked. A vessel or a boat that could be found shipwrecked, and it is vulnerable. Vulnerable is easily to be wounded, easily to be broken. I am vulnerable. He has a vulnerable character. He can be easily broken.
causing shipwrecks. Such disasters meant both a loss of life and, crass as it may seem to point out, a loss of profits as well.
Such disasters meant both a loss of life and, crass as it may seem to point out, a loss of profits as well. A loss of life, and they feel like life is more important than money, but he has to say that it is also a loss of money. So he say crass as it may seem to point out, we are shy to point it out. Crass to point it out. So what is crass to point it out? If you talk with someone and you say to him that you lost something very important, you lost a car, your car was stolen, and you want to add that your mobile was inside. So it is a silly or a small loss next to the big loss. So you say crass as it may seem to point out. So crass means what? I said it when I was talking now.
To point out.
Yeah, yes, what to point out? Silly to point out, stupid to point out. Very minor to point out.
Thus, there was great support in the United States for a voyage that would tell Americans more about faraway lands and waters. The 6 ships of the XX sailed from Virginia on August 18, 1838, under the command of Charles Wilkes, the head of the Navy's Strategic Information Gathering Department of Charts and Instruments. The flotilla headed down to South America, rounded Cape Horn, and made a side trip to the Antarctic. From there, it sailed up the west coast of South America, then over to Tahiti, the Fiji Islands, and Australia. The squad went on to the Hawaiian Islands, continuing east to the Pacific Northwest, then sailed home to New York via Manila, Singapore, and Cape Town. It was a circuitous route that might disconcert all but the most skillful navigators.
It was a circuitous. Circuitous is like rounding route. Route is a route that might disconcert. When you take a route or a route and you find this route is circuitous, as if you are taking a circle around yourself, circuitous route. This route might disconcert all but the most navigators. يعني it will cause everyone to feel what? Except the most skillful navigator. When you go to the test and you find it, you find it a circuitous route in the test. يعني you feel like you're surrounding yourself. This will do what to everyone except the skillful navigators. This concert divided into this concert.
Loss.
Lost, causing loss. This concert. This exam really disconcerted me. It was too hard. Disconcert. Yes, frustrate. So this route frustrate everyone except the skillful navigator. They can navigate well.
However, the route proved productive. The stalwart seafarers produced 241 navigational charts.
The stalwart seafarers, those who traveled and those who went for this expedition, for this exploration journey, stalwart seafarers. Seafarers are those who are in the sea, people. They produced 241 navigational charts and maps. When a sailor navigates the sea now, he navigated through a map. Who drew this map or the road? Who drew the map? Those first travelers. Those people who traveled at the beginning, they drew these maps. They know that if you walk here, you find this way and then this way. Okay? Yani we take maps now for granted, but who made them? The first travelers. So the stalwart is what? The strongly built. Stalwart. Strongly built. Grade 11.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, teacher.
Reply me. Reply me.
I am.
Mapped 1,500 desolate rocky miles of austere Antarctic coast.
Of austere Antarctic coast. Of austere Antarctic coast. A landmass they named. Rocky miles of austere. So austere here, the part of speech is what?
Adjective.
Adjective. Rocky miles of austere Antarctic coast. So he would modify the Antarctic coast by what?
Smooth.
Rocky.
Rocky, yes.
Rocky miles of austere Antarctic coast. Rocky, it will be what? A rocky way, a rocky road. Rocky road would be modified to be smooth. Would be modified to be what?
Rough.
Rough, severe in manner.
A landmass they named. and explored some 200 Pacific islands. In addition, the team charted the northwest coastline, boosting American claims to the Oregon Territory, the Columbia River, Puget Sound, and the San Francisco Bay. The officers and the civilian experts were punctilious about their scientific duties.
They were punctilious. Punctilious. What ends with OUS is always an adjective. What ends with OUS is always an adjective. Punctilious. Civilian experts were punctilious about their scientific duties. So they were what about the duty? Punct. Punctilious, from the word punct, if I divide it into punct and tilious. Have you heard punct in anywhere before? Punctuation?
Punctuation.
Yes, so punctilious about their scientific duties. They are what about their duties? Nirvana, they are what about their duties?
Teacher, did you call me?
Yes, Nirvana, they are what about their duties?
I don't know.
Miss, they're excited.
No.
Yeah? Did you hear me?
Careful. Extremely attentive. Extremely attentive. Careful.
Miss, I'm talking.
Punctilious.
Oh, okay.
As the Navy required, the crew filled journals with observations and maps, and it gathered thousands of natural specimens and ethnographic objects, plants and animals, corals and fossils, baskets and weapons. That the vast trove led to the founding in 1846 of the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Despite these many treasures, misery marked the mission. Wilkes was a redoubtable leader with great scientific talent.
Wilkes was, he was a redoubtable, not redoubtable, okay? Redoubtable leader with great scientific talent. So it's an adjective to leader. With great scientific talent. Redoubtable. Redoubtable leader.
Maybe feared. Maybe feared.
Yes, feared. He was serious. He was horrible. He was horrific leader.
Yet he was arrogant and later proved cruel as well. Before setting sail, Wilkes attempted to dismiss civilian experts in the belief that non-military men would debase the Navy's noble endeavor.
But then he was an arrogant man and later proved cruel. They found out that he was cruel as well. Before sailing, Wilkes attempted to dismiss civilian experts. The civilian experts, no, out. I don't want civilian, I only want militarian. Because the civilian experts he believed that non-military men would debase the Navy's noble endeavor. Debase. Debase. The part of speech is what? Of debase. Would debase. Would do. Debase is what? A verb. So they would do what to the Navy's noble endeavor? The civilian. Those civilian. They will debase.
I don't know.
They will debase, reduce in quality. Grade 11, I'm upset of you today. Only Linda answers me. Serena and Linda somehow.
Yes, ma'am.
You are only two girls who answer me grade 11. Yani, how come? And you are 23. It means that there are 11 girls who would left the class.
Teacher, can I answer the next one?
Wait a minute, dear, because I'm checking who has left. Layal, you are here, dear, but each time I write you as absent because you never reply me. Leah, are you here, ya Leah?
Miss, will we
Ragad
swim
has
anything
left.
today?
Ragad has left again.
Miss,
Mariam Shaghdali left. No, Mariam is here. Sarah is here. Serene is here. Serena is here. Tia is here. Sham and Sham. Okay, Tia. Okay. Yes?
Did you call me miss?
Yes, dear. I'm just getting sure you're here. Girls, answer me. يعني, be with me. The base is reduced in quality.
At sea, he pushed both himself and crew members hard, often reproving those he thought laggards.
At the sea, this man, this Wilkers, he was a skillful sailor, but he was arrogant and he wanted to dismiss the civilian experts. At sea, he saw himself and crew members hard. He pushed himself and the crew members hard, often reproving those he thought laggards. Often reproving. When you
Blaming?
reprove someone who does work, someone makes his job and you reprove him.
Criticize?
Yes, criticize. Criticize those. He always criticized to correct. Everyone works with him.
He showed little mercy. In 1840, Pacific Islanders slaughtered 2 cadaverous sailors who had gone ashore in search of food to augment their scant rations.
Two sailors went to gone ashore, and he had gone ashore, went to the shore to search for food. Pacific Islanders slaughtered. The Pacific Islanders slaughtered 2 cadaverous sailors. Cadaverous sailors. Cadaverous means what? It ends with OUS, so it's an adjective to sailors. Cadaverous sailors. Look.
Cadaverous. Cadaverous. Cadaverous is an adjective meaning pale, gaunt, or resembling a corpse. A person who has been on a long hunger strike is likely to look cadaverous.
You got it? Like corpses.
Military men would debase the Navy's noble endeavor.
Like corpses.
At sea, he
Cadaver
pushed both
like
himself
corpses,
and crew
okay?
members hard,
Reproving,
often reproving those he thought laggards.
criticizing.
He showed little mercy. In 1840, Pacific Islanders slaughtered 2 cadaverous sailors who had gone ashore in search of food to augment their scant rations.
So when 2 of the sailors went ashore to find food, and the islanders, Pacific Islanders, they slaughtered them, he had no mercy. What did he do?
Wilkes offered the killers no opportunity to make restitution.
They offered them no opportunity to make restitution. To make a restitution. To make
Like
a compensation.
to make up?
Yes, to give a compensation. To make it up. To fix what did they do. No chance for compensation. To make restitution. No opportunity to make restitution. If I divide restitution, it is from rest and tuition. Restitution, compensation means compensation.
Instead, the expedition attacked, leading to the deaths of 80 people.
They attacked them and killed 80 of them.
In Wilkes' defense, his men did not, in further retribution, desecrate holy places or
In his defense, when they asked him why you killed 80 people, he said to them, my 2 men didn't desecrate holy places. What is desecrate a holy place? They didn't
Like
do that.
violate them?
Yes, violate holy places. They didn't violate holy places. What? They killed them. Desecrate is to violate a holy place.
pillage villages.
Or pillage villages, or they go to the villages and pillage. Huh? What is pillage
Steal.
village?
Steal.
Steal. And they didn't steal. They didn't desecrate holy places. They didn't steal. They didn't pillage villages. So they didn't desecrate holy places or pillage villages.
On the whole, however, his beneficent acts were few.
His beneficent acts were few. Beneficent from the word what?
Beneficial.
Beneficial. So his beneficent acts were few.
Although Wilkes named geographical features after crew members, this gesture failed to offset the brutal floggings he ordered for minor infractions of naval regulations.
This gesture failed to offset the brutal, harsh floggings he ordered for minor infractions of naval regulation. Any infraction is, you take the infraction, right? Any
Yes.
infraction, any what?
Violating the law.
Any violation of the law. Excellent. Any violation of the law.
When the expedition arrived in New York City on June 10, 1842, Wilkes got his just deserts. Brought to court, he faced a court-martial, but was acquitted of all charges except that of ordering illegally harsh punishments. It was a tumultuous trial and a sad ending to a spectacular expedition. With the advent of the Civil War, the triumphs of the XX soon drifted from contemporary consciousness. Yet the horrors of the expedition live on in fiction. Herman Melville used accounts of Wilkes's dictatorial conduct when he created the character of Ahab, the tyrannical captain in his 1851 novel, Moby Dick.
Okay, girls, please, I want you to read the words with me. Please, open your book, page 100, read the bold words together. Start, number 1.
Miss page 100?
Yes. Start, girls, all of you together.
Concoct.
102 or
only
100?
100. Only one girl. Say the words. 1.
Concoct.
So only.
Concoct.
Where are you, grade 11?
What math we are here?
What is what, girls? Read
Concoct.
the words. Concoct. Number 2.
Concoct.
Grandiose.
Number 3.
Grandiose.
Inconsequential.
Inconsequential. Number 4.
Mitigate.
5.
Vulnerable.
6.
Crass.
Crass. 7.
Disconcert.
Star Wars.
Stalwart. Austere.
Austere.
Then punctilious.
Punctilious.
Redoubtable.
Redoubtable.
Debased.
Debased.
Reproving.
Reproving.
Yes. Then
Cadaverous.
Restitution.
Restitution. Desecrate.
Then
Village.
pillage.
Beneficent.
Beneficent.
Infractions.
Okay.
Max Nada.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Marie. Marie? Yes, dear. I stopped recording, girls. Yes, Marie.